we're gonna mend some hammocks. This was requested by some people. I have comments posted in places other than YouTube, so this was actually requested on Facebook, and I don't remember where exactly. This is a tube hammock I made. It's kind of hollow, and it's got this cool pocket so they can peek out. And one problem I've noticed, this was a test version, is that they love to chew along this seam here, and so it gets really frayed, and understandably this is a concern because of all these little threads. So we're gonna have to cover that up. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened to my scraps of this fabric, so I'm using a different one to patch it, but that'll be fine. The rats won't mind. So I have this scrap of heart print cotton that I used for Valentine's, which should be enough to solve the problem. We're also gonna need some scissors and some pins. Let me grab those. Okay, I just double checked. I definitely don't have any scraps of this. I don't know what happened to it. It's possible that they were too small or that I gave them to the children, but they're gone. So this is a scrap of heart print cotton for quilting. It's not expensive quilting cotton. It's got kind of a metallic sheen on it. You can see that right there, which is fine. So what we're gonna wanna do is cut a piece that we can wrap all the way around on the front and on the back. So we're gonna want it roughly twice this. So I'm gonna cut it about there. I've had a bit much coffee this morning. My coffee maker actually broke, so I'm using my backup one, and I have not figured out the ratios for that one. It's smaller. So I am a little bit shaky. It's not super obvious probably to anybody but me, but now we're going to fold it in both places. You can kind of see that there. And I'm going to pin through both layers, starting at the edge and just making sure we cover the main chewed areas. Let's get some light in here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, and then I'm going to put a pin on this corner. Over here. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I've also got a small hole here, so I'm just going to put a little patch over that as well. This one's not as big. Don't feel like I need as much. Check. No, I don't need as much for this one. If you have fabric left over, you can save scraps for this. If you're like me and you like to hoard stuff like that, but you do not have to, and it's totally okay if you don't. You can just use other fabrics like this. With fleece, you can just use any kind of fleece, really. It's easier because it doesn't fray or have raw edges, and I think it's easier to work with, but some people find it a bit slippery. I personally find it very forgiving. Okay, so we got those. I'm gonna add a pin in the center seams on this one. And on this side, I feel like it's trying to pull off this edge. So I'm gonna adjust that a little bit and then also put a pin right here in the middle. You can use as many pins as you need to hold the fabric in place to where you're comfortable with sewing. If you're really comfortable with sewing, you can use no pins at all. That works too. Now we're going to cut a patch for that. What are my rats doing in the cage right now? I don't even know. Okay. And I like to put one on the inside as well. That's what we're gonna do here. And I pin all the corners to Today is cage cleaning day, and so the rats are kind of hyper. They always get very excited over cleaning the cage, and they popcorn all over the place and come explore in between me cleaning. It's quite fun. All right, so now I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and show you what I do next. For these, since they're really small, what I'm just going to do is like trim this thread off. I'm going to probably do that off camera because it's already top stitched here, so I can either trim it off or like zigzag stitch over it. I'm probably just going to trim it and go with that. Let's see. Inside looks pretty good. I don't see any holes on the bottom. It's all in these places that we've patched, so we're good to go.
So we're going to start with the small patch that we made, and what I did is I literally just zigzagged over this patch along the edge, and you want one side of the needle to go in the patch and one side next to it. And remove your pins as you go. Do not sew over your pins if you can help it. Sometimes it's impossible and there's nothing you can do, especially in small areas like this. But removing it will help to make the life of your needle longer, as hitting the pins can actually cause the needle to break or get chipped and scratched. It can also damage the inside of your machine if it breaks and falls into the machine, and I've had that happen and then had to take the entire machine apart to get it out. Some of the areas I did back stitch over it, which is where you push your reverse button or lever, in my case a lever, and hold it down while you go backwards. And I just did that to make sure there were no raw edges on that top layer because I wanted it to look really nice. It just makes me feel better. It's a more like crazy quilt look, and I like how it looks.
Now I have folded this like this. We're going to start here and stitch to the edge.
So in these patches, we are going to do the same process, just stitching a little as we go. Make sure not to catch the underside of the tube in this instance. So I'm just making sure I'm only sewing through that patch and the fabric along this top layer of the tube. And it's kind of awkward. You can see me checking it frequently because I've been known to sew through multiple layers or like sew things shut, and then I have to go back and unpick it, and it is such a pain. And as I'm going back and forth along the edge, making sure I get it caught, I'm removing my pins, stopping at each corner, putting the needle down, lifting the presser foot, and then stitching the rest of the way, and then back stitching again. And sometimes I didn't go all the way back, especially like if I felt like it caught it really well the first time. So there's the patch on the front, and you'll see from the back that we had some excess, so I just trimmed that off. And then we're moving to the other side, starting with removing that pin. And I retucked that corner because it just did not want to stay very well. Zigzagging back and forth, struggling to remove pins again, going backwards, going forwards, and then rotating the fabric again with the needle down and the presser foot lifted, repeating the process all the way around. I really wish I had saved this fabric. I think these little cactuses are so cute, and I really hated covering that one's face with the heart fabric. It just broke my heart. No pun intended. Just thought it would have been cute if I could have patched it with a cactus. So then I trimmed around the hole, just trimming up the loose edges, and I did decide I was going to zigzag it just to kind of encase those little frayed spots. It wouldn't have gone very far because it's turned and top stitched, but it just made me feel better to go over it a bunch, so I did. I kind of wish I hadn't in hindsight because I don't like how this looks, but it doesn't hurt anything, and you know, my motto is the rats don't care if it's perfect or not, which I often just shorten to rats don't care. They just like stuff. So I zigzagged that quite a bit on that side, and then I cut the thread and I played a game of thread chicken there and actually won. That almost never happens. Thread chicken in the sewing world is where you are sewing with near to the end of the bobbin thread, and actually whether you make it or not to the end of your project with thread still. Usually you don't make it and you have to stop and replace the thread at some point. So here's where I noticed that I had missed the whole back of that patch and decided to fix it. So I'm stitching across that. You can always do this. If you don't catch the whole patch the first time, just go over it again, no big deal. So then I took the piece off of the sewing machine and I realized that I missed a section on the other patch as well. It wasn't very large, but I like all my edges to be well encased in the stitching just to prevent more fraying and loose threads. It also just looks nicer to me. So I decided after really looking it over that I was going to go back and stitch it some more. And this is me examining it off camera for whatever reason and then deciding, yep, I just have to fix it. So what happened is that little piece of fabric got folded over on itself, and I did technically stitch it down, but the whole edge of it was not stitched or covered in stitches at all. It just really bugged me, so I redid it. This is from the inside, so I went over the bottom of that little tab as well, since I just didn't like that it wasn't covered up, and I missed the whole side of that section of the patch. So, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, obviously. I had so many threads going on at this point that I don't know how I even managed to keep them straight. I was watching myself while I was editing the video and I just don't even know what was going through my head at this point. But here I am fixing the other side of the tube where it was chewed. I'm not sure why they decided it needed a bigger opening. My boys are big, but I definitely made the opening big enough for them.
Not pretty. We're going to take it to the other table and I'll show you what I do with all these loose threads. So we're going to start with these edges where we just tie them off, because that will eliminate a lot of threads. Good. This one I kind of lost my tail somewhere. You can see it got kind of caught in the machine. So I'm really just going to cut that one because it's already encased in all that thread, which means I have one loose piece. I'm going to show you another method. Thread this piece into your needle like this, and then just loop it underneath your threads. A little bit, like so. Pull it out and then trim it close to your threads. You're good to go. Now we need to focus on these other ones, and there's quite a bit of thread because on some of them I had to go back and forth as I missed areas underneath. So here we've got like two different groups of thread, so I'm going to do them separately. This one first. You can't see because it's off camera, but all the rats want to know what on earth I am doing, and they keep coming and putting their cute little feet on my leg and are like, "Mom, pick us up, please." We'll do the same on this side. Messed that up for sure. Okay. We're gonna have to untangle that. Where did my needle go? Here it is. So in this case, I'm just going to tie them because they're really short. Let's see if I can get a knot where I need it. When the thread is really short like this, it's really hard to do. Yay! It worked. Check out this side. So here we've got two that are also quite short. Actually, just one that's quite short. Nope, two. Okay, so I'm gonna try to tie them all together, but that's probably not gonna work. No. Let's see if we can tie them up. They might be too short for that. We have this little mended spot. So for these, I like to poke the threads through to the other layer. And then we'll just tie them in a knot. And yeah, the patch didn't catch all of it. I'm gonna leave that and just see how it does. If it becomes a problem, I can always patch it a different way. But there we go. See here we've got another long thread, so that one just pulled right out. These I'm gonna trim. And there we go. Really cute, really simple, fixed, perfectly usable. The rats will be happy. Bye.